Okay, so there's a new US visa proposal from the Trump administration that's causing a huge stir. We're talking about a policy that could make it cost nearly a crore rupees for a skilled professional from India to work in the States. So today, we're going to break down an analysis of this whole thing, and we're going to ask a really interesting question. Could this massive crisis for some actually be a golden opportunity for India? All right, let's just get right to the heart of it. This is the number that's at the center of this entire debate. 88 lakh rupees. Yep, that's roughly 100,000 US dollars. You're going to want to keep that number in your head because, well, it changes absolutely everything. So what exactly is this massive number? Well, according to the analysis we're looking at, this is the proposed new annual fee for a skilled worker visa, like the H1B. And let me just say that again, annual. This isn't some one-time application fee. It's what a company would have to shell out every single year. Okay, so how on earth did we get to this point? The analysis we're digging into today frames this entire move as a central piece of the Make America Great Again agenda. The logic, according to this source, is pretty straightforward. You protect American jobs by making it ridiculously expensive to hire talent from anywhere else. Now, let's really put this into perspective, because this is where it gets kind of wild. Before, you were looking at about 6 lakh rupees for a permit that lasted 3 years. The new proposal? 88 lakh rupees for a permit that lasts just 1 year. Do the math on that. Over 3 years, you're going from 6 lakh to more than 2.5 crore. It's not just a price hike, it's a complete game changer in the economics of hiring. The analysis we're looking at uses a really interesting and frankly a very provocative term for these professionals, educated laborers. We're talking about graduates from top-tier places like the IITs and IAMs. And the argument here is that by using a term like that, the policy is trying to reframe them. They're no longer seen as unique assets, but as expensive labor that can be swapped out. But, according to this analysis, the policy itself is really only half the story. The other half takes a sharp turn, and it's a pretty scathing critique of the Indian diaspora's reaction, or as the source puts it, the deafening silence. And the source really doesn't pull any punches here. This quote is aimed squarely at high-profile Indian-origin CEOs and leaders in the United States. The argument being made is that these are some of the most powerful people in the world, yet when a policy comes along that directly impacts their own community, there was silence. And to really drive this point home, the source draws this incredibly stark contrast. On one side, you have the Indian diaspora, portrayed here as silent, maybe self-interested, and ultimately having very little influence. And on the other side, it holds up the Jewish diaspora as an example of a community that's seen as unified, vocal, and incredibly effective at shaping U.S. policy. Okay, so after all that pretty heavy criticism, the analysis does something really interesting. It pivots completely. It asks this really counterintuitive question. What if this incredibly tough U.S. policy is actually a blessing in disguise for India? And this really is the core idea, right? Could this be an opportunity in disaster? Could slamming the door on India's best and brightest actually force them to stay home or maybe even return home? And in doing so, become the spark that ignites a whole new wave of innovation in India? I mean, the potential upside here is massive. For decades, everyone's talked about India's brain drain, all this incredible talent from places like the IITs and IMs leaving the country. Well, a policy like this could, in theory, slam the brakes on that. It could reverse the flow and redirect all that brain power, all that skill, right back into India's own startup ecosystem. But, and this is a really big but, there's a huge catch. Just because people can't easily go to the US anymore doesn't automatically mean they're going to stay in India. If the environment isn't right, that top talent might just pick up and move to other welcoming places. Think Dubai, Singapore, maybe even China. And just like that, the opportunity is gone. So this all leads to a really tough but necessary question. For India to actually grab this opportunity, it has to look in the mirror and ask, why do so many of our best and brightest want to leave in the first place? And according to this analysis, the answers are a lot closer to home than you might think. The source brings up a really powerful, almost unbelievable example. We're talking about BlackBuck, a billion-dollar startup. And why did they reportedly decide to leave their Bengaluru office? Not because of taxes, not because of regulation, but because the roads were so bad it was adding an extra hour and a half to their employees' commutes. Every single day. And look, this isn't just one company's story. The analysis points to data that backs this up. suggesting that major tech hubs in India, cities like Bangalore and Pune, are some of the slowest, most traffic-clogged cities on the planet. This isn't just an annoyance, it's a massive drain on productivity and morale. So, the final call to action from this analysis is pretty clear. First, you've got to acknowledge the problem. Basic things like infrastructure are literally driving talent away. Second, seize this moment. Use this external pressure as a reason to invest big in fixing these core issues. And finally, the goal shouldn't be to trap talent. It should be to build an ecosystem so good that the best people in the world want to be there. Which leaves us with this one big, thought-provoking question at the end of it all. Is a closed store in America the unexpected push India actually needs to finally build a better home for its own people? Or is this just going to be another massive, missed opportunity?